Hello everyone, Alan Posner from Virtuit Systems. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. And today we're going to go over Virtuit Systems Virtual Desktop as a Service. So we're going to talk about what it is, why customers are so interested in Virtual Desktop as a Service, or VDAS now, what's going to be required at your site if you choose to deploy Virtual Desktop as a Service, and how is Virtual Desktop as a Service priced. So let's jump right in. What is Virtual Desktop as a Service? It is a managed secure cloud desktop service. So what does that mean? So today, your users might be using PCs where they're using a local CPU, memory, and disk resources to run their Windows operating system. With Virtual Desktop, those resources now are running out of the cloud and being streamed over the internet to the device of your choice. That device could be their existing PC, it could be a tablet, it could be a thin client, it could be a smartphone. But the important thing to understand is that no longer are the local resources of the device doing the heavy lifting of offering Windows Desktop, but rather instead, it's being streamed over the internet, and a wide variety of devices now can present that Windows Desktop to you. There are three benefits that I like to focus on with Virtual Desktop with customers. One is they can reuse their existing personal computers and use them for a lot longer. Because those resources are being brought to you from the data center, from the cloud, you don't need to have as much resources in the local personal computer as you do when you're running Windows locally on a system. So you can reuse existing hardware for a much longer period of time, and you have the flexibility to use less expensive devices. So you can look at thin clients or Chromebooks, or even keep the existing personal computers that you have for longer periods of time. They'll work great with virtual desktops. In addition, you have much better security and data protection. So today, again, if you're using local PCs, users might be storing company files or other sensitive information on local hard drives. Well, if you go to virtual desktop, that's not the case anymore. Now all those files, even if they're using it on their smart device, like a phone, is still going to be all stored up in the cloud. And that gives you much, much better security. You don't have to worry about somebody getting that laptop or that smartphone when it's stolen, getting access to any of those files. Instead, all that is in the cloud. And then it gives you the increased mobility and flexibility. You can really work from anywhere. Anywhere you have an internet connection, you can jump on your virtual desktop. All you need is a virtual desktop shortcut on that desktop, or just take a browser like Chrome or Firefox and point it to a virtual desktop URL that we'll provide you. So you have all this mobility and flexibility, and this architecture has a built-in disaster recovery function in that if you lost the device or if the device failed, so if you might be using your existing PC and the PC dies, you don't need to be concerned with repairing or fixing the PC in order to get back up and running. You can get to some other device and log in from there. So those three benefits, being able to reduce your hardware costs by no longer buying expensive personal computers, no longer concerning yourself that, hey, my files could be lost or stolen because they're on a wide variety of local devices that I don't have control over, and being able to have the flexibility to work from anywhere and know that if the device you're using fails, all you need to do is get on another device and you can log in and continue working, is really terrific. So what are my choices? If I go looking for a new Windows desktop, I have a lot of choices in terms of CPU and memory and storage. Well, those choices are also available to you with virtual desktop. So by default, we offer a 2 virtual CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and 60 gigs of free disk space desktop. And I should point out that virtual desktops don't need as much CPU or memory as physical desktops. Because they of the functionality and the way they run out of the cloud, you can usually get away with using a smaller config when you're using a virtual desktop than you would when using a physical. But regardless, this is what we have as our default, but you can customize the desktop to anything you need. So if you have power users who need more virtual CPU and more memory, that's available to you. You also need an internet connection. You can get away with as little as 50 megs per second to support a 100-person office. Again, if you have more power users, you might want to get a more powerful network bandwidth connection. But my experience is that most of my customers nowadays have 100 and 200 megabit per second connections anyway. One thing I do encourage customers to look at are high availability options. So if you are only using one internet service provider in your office today, and if you move to virtual desktop, you might want to consider getting a second and then putting in a firewall technology, which will give you some high availability. So in the event that one provider fails for some reason, the other one will become immediately available and it's transparent to the users. Now, The other thing to bear in mind is that you no longer need to invest in Windows desktop licensing. The Windows license is included in your desktop, and you don't need to back up your desktop anymore if you are doing that at all. We'll do that for you, and you don't have to worry about antivirus. We'll take care of that as well. The only thing you need to do is you need to install your applications. So if today you're using Microsoft Office and a variety of different proprietary applications to your business, you'll want to install those into the virtual desktop the same way you did in the physical desktop when you got that particular system. How much does it cost? Well, pricing is a fixed cost per desktop per month. So by default, again, we provide a 2 virtual CPU, 4 gig of RAM, and 60 gig of free disk space virtual desktop, but you can customize it to anything you need. So that will impact the price. Obviously, larger desktops will be more expensive than smaller ones, but it's a fixed cost per desktop per month. So it's very easy to calculate if I add more users or if I add more powerful desktops, how will that impact my cost, my price. Very, very linear and very easy to calculate. One thing we're going to encourage you to do too is to get a domain controller in our cloud. That way that authentication can all occur in the cloud. That will improve performance and also give you resiliency, because if your only point of authentication is local and something happens to that local domain controller, you are a mobile user out there. Now you won't be able to authenticate and get to your virtual desktop. So for the low cost of putting a domain controller replica in the cloud, you get a lot of availability. And there's usually a setup fee associated with all of this as well. Something else to think about, even though I am encouraging you to get that domain controller in the cloud, I still want you to leave one on your prem in your office. So that way things like local authentication and printing services don't need to go out to the cloud in order to get done. Printing can happen locally just as it does today with your local domain controller. Now, a lot of customers who look at virtual desktop as a service also think, you know what, as long as I'm moving my desktops to the cloud, how about I move my file services to the cloud? Maybe I'll move some of my applications to the cloud. And that certainly is an option that's available to you as well. So if you have a small environment that you've been struggling to support, 1 or 2 servers, hey, this might be a great opportunity to not only move desktop services up to the cloud, but let's move those file services to the cloud as well. So how do I get started? Well, the first thing you want to think about is how many desktops will you need and with what configuration. And if you're really unsure of your configuration and you'd like to try out a virtual desktop to get a feel for what kind of performance a virtual desktop provides, we can provide you that default desktop as a demo. Just get in touch with us. And if we know how many desktops you have and what types of configurations you need, then we can show you what those costs will be. And you can find that out by shooting us an email at sales@virtuitsystems.com or reach out to us at 877-VIRTUIT, and we'll work with you to figure out how many desktops you need, what the configurations ought to be, what a domain controller requirement in the cloud looks like, and if there are any file or application services you'd like to start running out of the cloud as well, we can talk about that too. Until next time, this has been Alan Posner, Virtuit Systems. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope we answered a lot of your virtual desktop as a service questions. Again, if you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'll leave some links below this video so you can contact us. And we also have some information on our website about virtual desktop as a service. Until we speak next time, hope everything is going great. We'll talk to you real soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.